Welcome to the Forgotten ECE, the show where before and after school educators, summer camp and PD staff and CYWs have a place where they are seen, heard, and valued. I'm your host, Jamie Wagler, and I am so excited you're here. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Forgotten ECE. I am so ecstatic that you're here with me today because I have two incredible powerhouses here, and they're talking about my favorite topic, obviously, school age. With me today is the inspiring Julie Hansen and the also inspiring, because I'm not going to say two different things, Carla Ward. Thank you so much for being here. Together, we're going to discuss their upcoming live Zoom workshop, Guidance Strategies for School-Age Children, support emotional growth and navigate conflict with confidence, happening Saturday, August 16th, 2025. Hi, Carla. Hi, Julie. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. Carla, why don't we start with you? Why don't you give our listeners, if they don't already know you, why don't you give our listeners a little bit about you?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So my name is Carla Ward. I'm an ECE in Ontario, Canada. I am the host of the Everything ECE Podcast, and I've been an ECE for over 20 years. I live, breathe, and bleed early childhood. And I'm just so grateful to be on today talking about essentially that forgotten age group, as well as those forgotten ECEs. Julie and I absolutely love this workshop, so we're excited to chat about it, but also to share some actionable steps.
Amazing. And it's so needed. Before we all jumped on to recording, Julie and I were talking about how needed it is. And you just ignite my fire so much, because when people come out and they're doing things for school age children and educators, it's exactly where we need to be. Julie, can you give us a quick hi and tell us about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Hansen. I've been an early childhood educator for 25 years out here in BC. I really love teaching workshops for ECEs, family childcare providers, administrators, and students. And I'm really excited about this workshop that Carla and I work on together. It's just so much fun. And I really love supporting school age educators as well.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is so great. I'm just sitting here, and people can't see me because it's a podcast and I have to remember that, but I'm sitting here in awe because both of you are incredible people in this field, and it's honestly an honor to have you here on the podcast. All right, let's start at the beginning. What actually inspired you to team up and create this new workshop?
Well, Carla and I have worked together on a couple projects, and we really enjoy collaborating. And so we were having a conversation and we were talking about areas of the sector that don't get as much attention as they need to. And school age is always at the forefront of that list. And so we thought about our experiences in school age and areas that we thought would be really beneficial to share with school age educators, and guidance, was at the top of that list. So we started talking about brainstorming ideas, and before you know it, we had a workshop.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is so great. I'm just sitting here, and people can't see me because it's a podcast and I have to remember that, but I'm sitting here in awe because both of you are incredible people in this field, and it's honestly an honor to have you here on the podcast. All right, let's start at the beginning. What actually inspired you to team up and create this new workshop?
So we talk about this all the time, Julie and I, when we do our workshops, is school age is a really funny age, because when you go to school to be an ECE, there's a really big focus specifically on preschool. I would say even more so than any other age group. And then, a bit of kindergarten, some toddlers, very little infant training. I know in BC, they actually specifically have infant and toddler training, which I think is incredible. We don't have that here in Ontario. It's kind of lumped together. But there's nothing really specific for school age. We know that as early childhood educators, we're quote unquote trained for 0 to 12. But are we really trained 0 to 12? I mean, most of us, our first jobs are school age, but our goal is usually to move out of school age into the next. And it shouldn't be that. School age is, if not more important than the others, because one, it is such a vast age range, but also those grades 4, 5, and 6s, they're in a weird stage of life. They're really struggling with that sense of belonging. And we make this assumption because they're our older age group that they're supposed to know certain things. And while they're supposed to know more than a preschooler, they are trying to find their way and their sense of belonging more than any of the other age groups, in my opinion, because they're not teenagers yet, but they're no longer little kids. So they're in that in-between stage, which is why I don't like to say this all the time, they're also our most challenging because they have the most attitude, because they are testing us to see where they fit in the world. And that's one of the big pushes for making this workshop, is because it's not misbehavior. They're not out to get you. They are trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in. And when we can lead with empathy, which is a big part of our workshop and what Julie and I do in our work as school age educators, is just that reminder that they're still kids. Yes, they want to be teenagers. They can't wait to be teenagers. But at the heart of it, they're still kids trying to figure out where they belong.
Yes. Okay. You both have said so much that I wanted to just digress a little bit. First, you're absolutely right. School age we often talk about how they are a stepping stone. Educators come in and they're like, okay, I'll do the crappy split shift and then I'll get a real job. And then you also have families who are like, they don't really message all the time to say that their kid's not going to be there. They don't always stay in chat at the end of the day to find out how their kid did in school age. And there's so many flaws, I'll say, to the system of school age. And you touched on that. But the biggest thing is 100% that they're looking for that guidance and they're looking for their place in the world, especially that age group that you touched on, because they not only are they fighting with themselves on who they are and the changes that's happening and the world around them and what groups they fit in, but now they're also deciding how much they can push back with their families, how much they can push back with the teachers, and now how much they can push back with you. And they're looking for this safe place to be themselves. They're also really wanting to just that, to be themselves and be able to explore different things so they can find out who they are. It's just so incredible that you said, like, it's not a bad behavior. It's not them pushing because they're not good kids. And a lot of them have backgrounds that we don't know about. A lot of them this might be their only place that they feel like they belong. And that's why it's so important, I think. So the title of your workshop is Guidance Strategies. What does that mean to you in a practical day-to-day term, Julie?
Well, thinking about ways that we can support the children when they come into the program. And I think one of the starting off points that Carla and I talk about in the workshop is understanding the importance of an unstructured environment where they're coming out of this super structure all day. And how do we give children coming into a school age environment choices, and making sure that there's an important emphasis on the learn, play, and relax. And we don't always think about the relax piece and how important that is. I remember even as a child being so exhausted at the end of a school day. And whether a child is in school age for 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, we have to have that balance. And to think about the reaction you might get from a child if it's, okay, we're going to go right into homework time as soon as we get there. You might see some adverse behaviors just because you're asking them to go into more structure. So thinking about the environment, thinking about the choices that they have within the space, the individual needs of every child. And do the educators see the children as individuals, which I think is so very important. And how are you choosing to connect with the children? And do you understand the needs of every child? And Jamie,
Yes.
what we were talking about before we came on too, is when from the educator perspective, making sure that educators stay in these roles and that there's not that continual revolving door, because you can see behaviors just because of turnover that don't need to be there as well.
Yes, exactly. Educators are a huge asset when they get in and they believe that they're in the right spot and they know that they're doing this because they're meant to be here and they're not looking at it from that lens of a stepping stone or till they get something better. And I think that there's a lot on a management level to make that better. But I also think that when people like you, Julie, and Carla come in and you're powerhousing and leaning for these rights of the educator and helping them along the way, I think that's when we can build this stamina for them and build this knowledge and advocate for the right of educators in the sense of keeping them in the school age spots, that it's manageable and we can do this because that's where they should be, right?
Educators need confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're in these situations and to feel comfortable about being in their role. And how do we get them to feel prepared to deal with some of these behaviors that might be coming up? Strategies, information, changing of environment, changing of the schedule that they have. One of the most significant changes that I added into our school age program was we added in an open snack instead of a structured snack. So that one little tweak made a huge difference in even some of the behaviors that we were seeing cropping up.
And I think as well that educators have to believe in themselves and you have to tell yourself that you want to be here. Even if you know that really your calling is preschool or kindergarten, show up as the school age educator. Because the thing is that if your heart's not 100% in it, there's this funny phenomenon that happens where the children seem to subconsciously know it. And you are going to have the worst teaching day of your entire career. And it is not going to be the children's fault. I can promise you that. It's really how we show up. And I wish I could remember the study, but there's a study out there that says like the greeting that you give a child can be noticed. The effects of the greeting can be noticed within the first 10 minutes. So if you are hustling and bustling, trying to put out craft, trying to put out snack, trying to do whatever at the beginning, and you just kind of give this quick like, hey, and you turn your back on the child and you're continuing to set up, you're missing that connection opportunity to get a relationship with this student. So why should the student be like, hey, Miss Ward, how's it going? If you're like, hey, and then you're too busy to even have a conversation with them. And I think that's such a big part. Like Julie already touched on the connection piece a bit, but connection is everything. And we are so much better at doing it with the younger kids than we are with the hormonal middle school ager kids that have attitude. But the thing is that, yeah, they have attitude, but they need connection and a reminder that someone cares so much, not more than or less than our preschoolers, but they still need it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% that the greeting is a huge part in how you present yourself in the program. Carla, we've talked a lot about manifesting, how you're manifesting this program to be. If you're waking up in the morning, you're saying, this is going to be a really bad day. Oh, great. They're going to talk back to me. Oh, great. They're not going to listen. Then you're going to come to work and it's going to be a really bad day. But it's all about your attitude, and it's all about how you make those kids feel. As an educator, if I came to work and my supervisor didn't even look up off her desk and said, hey, how's it going? But like was focusing on her work, it would suck. I wouldn't want that. So when kids come in, stop what you're doing, walk over to the door and say, hey, how's it going? That's also how you build those connections with their families. And that's another important aspect of school age, because you need to use those micro times that you have with the family to build those connections, because it's the same as preschool and toddler and infant. When you have those connections with the families, you're going to have those connections with the kids.
I love the example, Carla, that you share in our workshop about the clipboard and about how the clipboard can be like a barrier to connection with children or school age. You know, you're picking them up from school and you're ticking everybody off your clipboard. But is that going to be a barrier for even that greeting or that initial connection or that first time you see the child? What is that experience going to be like? If an educator is hiding behind a clipboard, just checking everybody off, not even really making an effort for that, hi, how are you? How is your day? That's going to have a huge impact on the child.
Yeah, there's so much to be said about nonverbal communication as much as verbal communication. And we also have to check our own bias in the sense that, you know, if let's say your back's turned for 20 seconds and you hear an altercation behind you, do you go, and you have already assumed who was at the forefront of that conflict without actually having all the facts? I've done it. I started out as a school age educator. I was a school age educator for many years, and I totally did it early on in my career. And it doesn't serve you as the educator. It doesn't help with building trust between you and the child or you and the other children. And it makes for a really, really long school year if you don't check yourself before you check the kids.
Yes. Oh my goodness. What I'm hearing collectively is it all comes down to confidence. Obviously connection too, but it's also the confidence of the educator. So when you talk about navigating conflict with confidence, what's a common mistake educators make during conflict moment? So you just said a good one, Carla. Do you have any more to say on that?
No, I was going to say control, because there's a difference between confidence and control. And this is because so many newer graduates take on school age, you're still establishing who you are as an educator. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I came in, I'm the educator. So I'm in charge, you're not. And I would get into these battles. And listen, if you have ever gotten into an argument with a child whose brain is not fully developed, which is all of them, you've lost. There is nothing to gain trying to establish control. It's not worth it.
And I think, have you slowed the situation down enough to understand the point of view of the child? Or are we assuming we know? Oh, it must be because of this, or I'm sure it's that. Well, do you know for sure? And I think that takes confidence to actually be like, oh, wait, I need to take a minute to really check in and understand this situation. And that's not something that you often always see. I know that I had to learn to sort of cool my jets a little bit. Instead of just jumping in and solving a situation, I needed to understand the situation from the child's perspective too. And I think that is an important situation to show children respect in that manner. Tell me how you're feeling. What happened here? Let's understand. Let's work this out together instead of jumping in and trying to save the day. Understand the full context of the situation.
And I think apologizing. That's something that I really had to learn. Again, as I matured, I mean, my brain wasn't fully developed when I became a school age educator either, but being okay with apologizing. You've never seen a child more shocked when you're like, I am so sorry that I lost my cool, because you are going to lose your cool at least once. Like it's unfortunate, but it's going to happen. But apologize, because your brain is fully developed. You are a full grown adult. And when you apologize, you're modeling, hey, it's okay to screw up, but here's how we rectify the situation. Like, I'm so sorry that I assumed you did ABC. Thank you for clarifying with me. And like, again, it's that control, right? Putting that pride aside. So it's huge.
Yeah, you guys said so much there that is important. The keywords I'm taking away are understanding, empathy, still connection. But I also believe that when is respect. The other thing I think is that being respectful. You said that being respectful to children, but it's giving them that the time of day, understanding that there are humans, they're people too, and that they deserve that respect. And it's not coming into the situation demanding it. It's working your way up to earn it. So we talked a little bit about how school-aged kids are in such a unique developmental space. We talked a little bit about the emotional needs educators have to put forth, such as connection and such. What else do you think that educators are missing with emotional needs in school-age programs?
I think the resources. Like, do you have enough resources within your program that are going to support children in being able to articulate larger emotions and helping them to be able to understand how to articulate those larger emotions in a safe way? And do we put a high emphasis in that or into the resources that we have in the program space? And there's so many things that we can do to support children, because not all children are going to sit there and say to you, I'm feeling very jealous today, or, this child irritated me because of this. They're not going to do that, right? So we have to have resources, and we also have to develop ways within the program space so that children have the language to be able to say how they're feeling and the degrees of that upset, giving them the tools to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that also comes with honesty on yourself. Like, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling irritated, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. I know I'm feeling frustrated because A, B, and C. So I need to take a minute before I address the situation. And then it's giving them that you're setting a boundary for yourself, but you're also telling them and explaining them, like, okay, it's okay when I feel like this to say something. So if I say something to you and you're feeling frustrated, you're allowed to tell me you're feeling frustrated. You're allowed to say, I'm mad because X, Y, and Z.
And I really love how Carla was talking about modeling, because modeling is so important, right? And we can't have these expectations of the children to do this and that if we're not willing to do this and that. So we have to make sure that we see how important modeling is in our practice and really understand the value to that.
And emotional regulation has really been a big topic of conversation in 2025. We know that students are really struggling right now to emotionally regulate. So much of that is because of technology, the overstimulation of technology, and, fast moving video games and YouTube videos. And so we almost have to pre-teach a lot of the skills. For school age, one of my favorite books is How Full Is Your Bucket? But I also like to teach things like have a greeting circle, maybe not right away when they come in, let them come in, let them decompress for a minute, but then have a circle. Maybe you do yoga. They don't have to participate if they don't want to, but at least they're in the same room as that calm energy. If yoga is not your thing, can you lead a meditation? Doing tapping. Tapping is amazing. And I always used to joke when I did school age that I used to do it with my school agers, I should say, is I'm a pretty high strung person. If you know me, you know that is 1,010% accurate, but I get my yoga voice. And my sister came to visit once and she's like, what is happening right now? Because my yoga voice goes, and let's take a deep breath in and breathe out And it is amazing how when you control yourself and your voice and your emotions, how the whole mood changes. Chaim Ganot's got this amazing quote that starts with like, I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the deciding element. And you really are, as the educator, you are the deciding element on how the day is going to go. Does it mean it's going to be perfect? Of course not. They're school agers. But does it mean that it can be great? Absolutely. But you get to decide how you react to situations.
Yeah, and it's your reaction that will escalate the situation or diffuse it. You're 100% right. And I find especially, well, I'm not going to say, I was going to say especially new educators coming in, but it's not. It's everyone. When you get to that burnt out spot, or you get to that spot where you just feel like you can't do it anymore, you're shorter tempered and you're stressing out more, but you're bringing that into the room and you're escalating the situation before it even starts. Absolutely.
Something that works really well, and the kids always laugh when I do it, but like if I find I'm getting myself overstimulated, like let's say something is really challenging and I'm getting frustrated, and obviously I want to diffuse the situation, then they will literally see me shake my body and I'm like, I can do hard things. I'm like, we're smart. We can do this. We can do hard things. And they always laugh because they're like, what? I'm like, no, we can do hard things. And it's amazing when you say it often enough, how they will start to say it back. Like, okay, Miss Ward, you're right. We can do hard things. Like, come on. And they start saying it to each other. And you're like, oh my gosh, like you do become their internal narrative because they are with us in the mornings. Some of them don't like barely say hello to their parents before they get to before school. And some of them see their parents for dinner and then it's bed if they're not off to, after school activities already. And it's no fault. I mean, that's just the way we are right now in the phase of, parenting and childcare. But then let's be the good internal voice to help those parents out.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wondering if we were discussing a lot about inside the classroom and teacher confidence, but I'm wondering what about the activities that educators put out for the children, or the resources that they give options to children, because it's such a vast age range. Do you think what educators are putting into the room affects their behavior?
Oh, I would say 100%. I mean, there's a world beyond air hockey and Uno in school age programs. So when we think about all these different areas in the program space, whether it's creative outlets, like 3 or 4 different opportunities to do something that supports children's creativity within the environment. Also thinking about what the children's interests are, or the people, what's going on for them, and then creating that responsive curriculum within that environment. Having a physical outlet. Some children, Carla and I were teaching a workshop, and one of the participants was talking about this isn't the right time for competitive games for our group. So I was like, okay, we were like, then don't do them right now. You don't, this isn't the right time. Understanding the needs of your group. Thinking about your space. Maybe you're going to work on some drama and doing a project that's progressive, whether you're going to develop a play or something like that. Thinking about what really is important to the children within your space and getting creative and doing things too. Like I remember with a school age group, one of my favorite experiences I did on a Pro D day was taking them to a community center that had a ceramic studio, and a senior center had a ceramic program in there. And I took them to do ceramics with the seniors, and it became a tradition with us. And we would go once or twice a year, and they loved it. So thinking about what's also available in the community that you can connect the program to as well.
Yeah. And inside the classroom, it's really hard as a school age educator if you have to set up and take down your classroom every day. So you have to be really intentional about what you're putting in, but then also being aware that you have such a broad age range. So I always say go for blocks and loose parts and open-ended art materials, because the way a grade 5 uses loose parts is going to be completely different to the way a grade 1 uses the same loose parts, but they're both having their developmental needs met. And it also opens up to collaboration and learning that will happen naturally, as well as conversation. So because, you've got to set up and take down, but like Julie said, make sure you've also got the physical, even inside, whether that's a trampoline or, some movement center or a yoga mat, like something. Yep. Yeah, something.
Oh, I love listening to you talk about this topic. I'm a little biased, but I love it. Yeah. There's so many workshops out there about spaces for preschool and toddler children, I think that there's definitely some room for consideration and organization when it comes to school age programs. And it's understanding that the activities that you're offering or the resources you're offering to school age can be similar to that of preschool. Some of those kids are only 3 and 4 going into kindergarten. And then the ones that are older, there's other ways that they can engage with the same materials. Like you said, loose parts. I think that's an excellent idea. But put as much consideration in it that you would put in any other room.
And also, I love school age because it opens up doors to things that you can't do in preschool. For example, when I accidentally ended up teaching at a private school, long story, is we landed up having grouped age groups because it was a brand new private school. So we did have grade 2s to grade 7s in the same classroom. That's really hard to do any group activities. But something that was so beautiful is chapter books. You can't do chapter books in preschool and maybe a little bit in kindergarten. But because we're working on emotional regulation, stories like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Witches, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is great because it shares different perspectives. But it gets the kids wanting to come back to be like, well, what happened on the next chapter? Because you have these kids all year for the most part, if not for 6 years for some of them. Like some of our kids stay with us forever. So chapter books are such a neat way to bring that in because they want to they think about the book all day. Like, well, what happened next? And if you are like me and like to do voices, The Witches is a fantastic book to do because they can't wait to show up to know what happened next. Like kids that can never sit, quote unquote, can never sit, suddenly are sitting for an hour while I read a chapter. Like it's amazing when you introduce it in the right way.
Yes, back when I was in school age full time, we would read books while they got ready to go to school. Well, we used to walk from our center to the school. So while they got ready, we would read a chapter of the book. And I introduced them to books like The Breadwinner, which is a little controversial, but it gives them these outlooks of a world that's not where they are right now. It gives them that outdoor perspective.
Oh yeah, I did Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul way back in the day.
Well, then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just a couple more questions and then I'll let you guys go. But how is your approach with this workshop different than your typical quote unquote behavior management training?
Julie and I don't sugarcoat anything. Let's just go with that. Like Julie and I are very aware that school age is not all sunshine and rainbows. But we do call you out a little bit as the educator, but we also call out, the lack of respect that school age educators get. Like we're very, very aware because Julie and I've done it. We've been those educators, but we've also seen what's on the other side of the rainbow, where when you start really focusing in on your own reflective practices, just how much fun school age can be.
And I think another difference with our workshop is it's not Carla and I talking at you. It's Carla and I talking with the participants. So it's really like a conversation. And we want to hear from them. What is your biggest challenge? Let's talk about why. What could be the contributing factors to these challenges that you're having? And for them to walk away from the workshop going, okay, now I have some options. Now I have some choices. I have some things to really, really think about in my practice. And we do talk about development in there too, which I think is unusual and is different. Not a lot of school age talk about development and how to really understand where children are developmentally at that time.
Oh, I love it. Yes, I think that this is just so good for educators. I think that it's important that you are leaving educators that attend this workshop with that firsthand experience and maneuvering it for who's ever in the group. So whatever happens is based on the educators that come and join this training, which is incredible. All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the live training format? You just touched on a little bit, but specifically what can participants expect from these 2 hours on Zoom?
So it's a great 2-hour workshop where Carla and I go through lots of different areas, as I said. So it's on August the 16th, 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern, 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard. And it's just fun. And we talk about so many different areas of school age in this area of guidance. You get lots of tips, lots of time to brainstorm with the other participants. And it's just lots of fun, as I said.
Yeah. And I think as well, you feel like you're not alone because I think that's something that school age educators you feel like, especially if you're the only educator in the room, because you can have so many children when you're the school age educator, you can have so many on your own, is you don't know if it's typical for certain behaviors. And I can promise you, yes, it is typical, because Julie and I have heard some of the wildest stories. We've done this workshop so many times and we've heard some wild ones, but they're not even the first ones that we've heard that are that wild. So you leave feeling, you feel seen as the educator, but you also leave feeling armed to self-reflect on as yourself as the educator, self-reflect on your program, and then show up as your best self.
Perfect. And where can people sign up and how can they stay connected to both of you? Carla, why don't you start?
So you can head to either Inspired ECE or EL Foundations on Instagram, head to the link in our bio, or it's going to be below this podcast.
It sure is. And Julie, if people want to follow you, it is Inspired Educator on Instagram, right?
Inspired ECE, yeah, on
Perfect.
Instagram.
Inspired ECE. And any final thoughts for our listeners who are passionate about school age programs and want to advocate for more support in their roles?
Do that. Advocate for more support in your roles. But also, find like-minded educators, join organizations. Like if you connect with somebody at our workshop, find out what their social media is, connect with them. I mean, heck, the three of us, that's how we all know each other, is through social media, because we all had something to contribute to helping each other. And so use social media as a way to find your people, because it can be really lonely, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I always say find your circle. Find your circle of like-minded people that are there to teach you and support you and laugh with you as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Julie and Carla. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for this awesome episode. And I will add all of this great information into the show notes. Be sure to get your spot now. You do not want to miss this live Zoom workshop. Again, Saturday, August 16th on Zoom. And it's guidance strategies for school age, support emotional growth, and navigate conflict with confidence. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.
Thank you, amazing listeners, for your support. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at MissJamie_RECE. Give a star rating and leave a review. Have something you want to hear about in relation to before and after school programs or full day summer camp? DM me or comment. Again, thank you so much and happy learning.